Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of IBDP Simplified. In today's episode, we'll be discussing the subjects offered in the fourth subject group, which is your sciences. We also have a set of guest speakers who will be talking about their experiences with each of the subjects that they have chosen in this group. So let's begin. Okay, now we have Malcolm from grade 11 who will be talking about his experience in physics so far. So, Malcolm, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So, Malcolm, yeah, welcome to the podcast. And so, obviously, I'll be asking you a few questions about the subject of physics. So, first of all, to start off, can you just tell our listeners a bit about what is covered in physics? What's the subject all about?
So physics as a subject in DP, it does start off from the basics. I must say that. The first unit is, I would say, rather simple than the rest of the syllabus. It
Mm-hmm.
starts off with measurements and uncertainties, which is a topic that literally takes you off on the basics and is a very essential topic for the rest of physics.
Mm-hmm.
It moves on into topics such as mechanics, which covers energy, power, forces, something that is very briefly covered in MYP, but you really dive deep in physics, DP. Then there's thermal physics, which is something that will be very new for MYP students, and waves, which is another very interesting topic. That's how much I have covered so far in DP. But according, like from my transition from MYP to DP, I would say that it's MYP does cover basics of this, but you really dive deep in DP.
Okay, so Malcolm, I think you've pretty much answered my next question as well, which is how does it link to MYP? So, like you said, there's a minimal link. MYP does just teach you just the basics required for physics and DP.
Yeah.
So, another thing that we're taught a lot about in MYP is our ATL skills. So, can
Yeah.
you tell us a bit about what ATL skills you use in physics, and how do you apply them when you're studying for physics?
So this actually, I think this will help a lot of students in MYP because one thing that I did not take serious in MYP with ATL skills, but in reality, ATL skills, especially such as time management skills, which are the organization skills,
Right.
they are very essential for entire DP, but mainly for physics also, because the deadlines and the studying for the summatives, you require very good time management skills to ensure that you are able to cover the entire portion.
Right.
Another thing is that one major difference from MYP, I would say, is the collaboration skills used in MYP are not as much used in DP because it's more individual work, I would say. There is
Okay.
still some collaboration, but not as much. And obviously, creative thinking skills are used in the IA, especially, which is the internal assessment, which
Right.
is when you have to create your own, like basically like criteria BNC and MYP, you have to create your own lab report and an investigation. And yeah, so you use thinking skills there, and critical thinking skills are used throughout when obviously giving the summative and studying for the summative.
Right. Yeah. So you mentioned past papers. So would you say that physics, like past going through past papers helps for physics? Does it like help you prepare for exams and stuff?
I would say past papers are like the main source of learning as of right now for me, because
Okay.
past papers not only do they cover the portion very well, but you get to practice and answer the questions which answer similar questions which will mostly come in your summative, which obviously will give you a major advantage because you get to understand what kind of questions will come.
Okay. So are there like any specific sites you recommend for past papers, or can you just like Google up and find some past papers about physics for physics?
Honestly, you can Google and find, but I would highly recommend like sticking to the websites which are mostly known. There's a website called ExamMate,
Right.
which is very well known and very widely used. And but there are some other websites also. So you can just go Google and search it up, but make sure you're using it from a reliable source. That's all I say.
Okay. And so, Malcolm, my last question to you would be, what is the one piece of feedback or advice you would give to anyone about DP in general for the people who are going to be entering DP very soon?
Okay, this is one thing that I have learned from the first day, from my first summative, is that do not take DP lightly in any subject, whether it's physics, math, or any of the sciences or any other subject. Do not take DP lightly, whether it's SL or HL. And you need to, it's fine if you struggle at first with time management, But once you get in the flow of managing your time, do not take any time off, because then you will ruin your flow. And yeah, just make sure you're organized.
Okay. Great, Malcolm. Thank you so much for your time today. And thank you for joining me on the podcast. And I hope you have a great day ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, now I have Arav Patel from grade 11 who will be talking about his experience in chemistry so far. So, first of all, Arav, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, my first question to you is regarding chemistry, obviously, what is the content that you've covered in chemistry so far?
So, being part of SR, I haven't learned the same content as the HL, but for the SR students, we've done the first 5 chapters of the chemistry course, along with organic chemistry that we did as a surprise unit.
Okay. So, what is the main difference between HL and SL?
So, HL, the biggest difference is the much larger portion than us SR students. It's almost double our portion.
So, like, can you tell us a bit about like what in the portion?
So they for each unit, first of all, they have an extension. So, for example, for the first 2 units, they didn't have a special portion because it was the same, but they had to cover much more reaction mechanisms when we were talking about organic chemistry,
Okay.
for example. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. And so, how does what you're learning in chemistry right now relate to what you learned in MYP in the sciences?
So, what I can strongly remember is the bondings that we did in 9th grade.
Okay.
And 10th grade also. So that's something that's really important even now in chemistry, because it's important to understand which bonds work with which elements and to create certain molecules.
And also a big part of MYP is obviously the ATL skills that we use.
Yeah.
So what ATL skills do you use in chemistry in DP?
So I believe that chemistry allows me to utilize all my ATL skills in different aspects, such as when I'm performing research, like for the reports, for the reports, like when I'm doing my IA or when I'm learning about different things, I need to use all my different ATL skills.
Okay. And finally, what is the one piece of advice you would give to someone about IBDP in general?
I would suggest that you are always studying and always revising and don't wait till the last minute.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast, Arav.
Okay, so now I have Aditya Mishra from grade 11. So, first of all, Aditya, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Dhruv. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Thank you so much for joining us today. And so, Addy, my first question to you would be, what is the content that you cover in biology in DP?
In biology, we generally cover everything you have from like, I guess, human physiology to ecology, basically everything to do with life, right?
Right.
We cover biology as as I think the subject name is apt to it, right? So we cover processes of life in humans, animals, plants, and how the world basically works around you and how nature works.
Okay. So, how does this link to something or relate to some stuff you've already learned in MYP?
So, as I said, majority of the portion is focused on human physiology, right?
Right.
So, like in 10th grade, we had a genetics, right? We covered mitosis, meiosis, transcription, translation, those processes. So
Yeah.
basically, MYP can kind of start as like an introduction course, which
Okay.
kind of then those topics are kind of further extended on in DP. So now we have a genetics unit that we're doing, and in that those processes are more expanded on, and we kind of look at how they occur and what effects they have and things like that.
Okay. So, since one of the major parts of MYP is also the ATL skills that we focus so much on. So, what ATL skills would you say you use the most when it comes to biology?
I think for biology, like I think thinking skills and organization skills probably pretty important, because thinking, because like let's say if you have paper two, which is basically it is a database question, it's a database question like many long answer questions, right?
Mhm.
So you have to basically kind of, and it's based on a case study, so you have to kind of rely on your knowledge and kind of rely on critical thinking to apply your knowledge in a scenario, because it's basically like you have all the materials at your disposal, you just have to kind of know how to apply them,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So that way you have to kind of look at your critical thinking skills and solve a problem on the spot. And organization skills, I say, because when you're taking notes, right? So biology is a very extensive subject. Like you have a lot of content to cover. There's like 21 units for HR. So for that, you kind of have to realize that you need to organize your time and your notes. So it's best like what for me, what works is that so I'm a visual learner, right? So essentially I can't learn when I'm writing and learning at the same time. So what I do is that I mark which whatever's been covered in class on Cognitive.
Right.
For students who don't know what Cognitive, it's a software we use in DP quite often. You guys will use that now. So I mark things on Cognitive that I have to do, and I go home and I make sure that within the 2 days of that lesson, I've made my notes because such a massive chapter and you cover it like a day before the summative, it's not gonna work, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of have to be really organized, and there's so much knowledge that you have to know which one to use in a summative because there
Right.
can be an n number of variety of things that your teacher can ask you. So just, I guess, be careful with that. Yeah.
Okay, so that was some great advice you gave.
Yeah.
Okay, so my final question to you would be, what is the one piece of advice you would give to anyone just in general about IBDP?
What I'll give advice to you on IBDP is that I know it seems like we're all crying for no reason. And I know it may seem like it's nothing, but trust me, when you get here, you will be humbled a bit. So the best thing you can do right now is work like your level best on kind of knowing how to organize your time. Like
Right.
figure out what works for you and don't let it get to the point where you're messing up and then you have to figure out strategies to not mess up.
Right.
Get to the point where you know and you've seen other people like mess up and you can kind of use like other tools like I use Google Calendar, right? So use things for organizing, and I know through use like Notion, right? So
Yeah.
use things to like organize your time, organize your tasks because there's going to be so many things you have to do. They're going to be overwhelmed at one point. So instead of actually crying about the things you have to do, kind of focus your time on covering a little bit of those tasks every day and make sure that you have to study every day. Like, don't make it like you're studying only for a summative. So make sure you have to study every day and try to do that a little bit, and you'll be fine.
Great. Okay. So that was it, Addy. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today, and I hope you have a great day ahead.
Okay, now we have Advait Katiyar from grade 11 who's taken computer science at higher level, and so he'll just be talking to us about his experience so far. So, first of all, Advait, welcome to the podcast.
Hello,
And how are you doing today?
I'm great. What about you?
I'm good, thank you. So, Advait, first to start off, can you tell our listeners just a bit about the course itself? What all you learn, what are the topics covered, etc.
Right. So, computer science course doesn't require prior knowledge.
Okay.
So, even like an absolute beginner can start the course and take the course. So, they start off with very basic concepts, which you might be knowing before joining this course.
Okay.
So, it's about basic computer science technical terms like
Okay.
bits, bytes, etc. And coding, the code part of it only starts until semester 2 of the program. So
Okay.
semester 1, it's all theories and building the critical ideas of computer science.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you say computer science relates to some of the things you might have learned in MYP?
I think MYP, not a lot of what I was taught in MYP is helpful here. Just one unit and design is what I think applies here, which was related to P5 Java coding, a little
Right,
bit
the
of Java coding,
P5JS.
yeah,
Yeah.
P5JS. But apart from that, I think not a lot applies to computer science.
But then still, since the course starts off really
Yeah,
from the
from the
basics, you
basic,
don't need to
you
have
don't
any
need-
prior,
you don't-
right?
Yeah.
So, what ATL skills would you say are useful in this subject?
I think the two ATL skills that stand out are thinking skills and communication skills.
Okay.
Because personally, we've done a lot of discussions in class, and that is what has helped us build our ideas and helped us to think more and from a different perspective.
Okay, and I know you said that that the subject starts from the very basics, but would you recommend listeners who are currently in grade 11 and grade 10 will be joining IBDP soon to maybe do something during their summer break related to the subject if they're interested in it or have decided to take it?
Of course, yeah, there are many starter courses online, plus also many interactive and fun YouTube videos to engage
Right.
with. So they might want to just go through some videos and just get a basic hang of it. But as far as I know, the people who are absolute beginners in my batch as well are enjoying it and are not facing troubles or issues.
Okay. What is the one biggest challenge you faced entering this subject?
Personally, I'd already engaged with a lot of material prior to joining this course, and that's one reason why I think I'm not facing any challenges currently. But I think as more content is being taught and more complex operations etc. are taught,
Right.
I think that will be something new, something interesting but challenging at the same time.
Okay. And finally, what is the one last piece of advice you would give to our listeners? It can be about computer science or just DP in general.
I think it applies to both computer science and DP is to stay up to your tasks
Right.
and deadlines. Because if you do that, then you won't have a lot of workload and backlog. So, because once backlog starts piling up, it will be a very tough task to actually clear that and also study for the upcoming
Right.
content. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time today, Adak. It was a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Today we have V Shah with us. Welcome, Veer.
Thanks, Raghav.
Okay, so we can start off by asking you about how your journey has been in IVDP as of now.
And DP has been quite the jump, so it feels like I'm doing much more, and I'm learning much more, and I'm doing the stuff I like. Like I'm studying the subjects which I want to learn.
Yeah.
So it's a mix of it's hard as well as fulfilling.
Okay. So obviously, you have taken DT as your SL subject, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
Okay. So tell me, what is the major difference between your DT SL and DT HL?
So as of now, till now, what we've experienced, there's not much difference based on the curriculum as of
Yeah.
that's been taught to us till date. But I definitely think DTHL is a little rigorous compared to SL, and the weightage given to DTHL is much more. Like in class, you have to be much more vigilant and pay much more attention when you're DTHL. So there's a sense of responsibility when you're DTHL.
Okay. So as we're talking about DT, can you tell us about the different concepts that you've covered in this subject?
Okay, so we did. Right now, we're doing material strength and the different kinds of materials. Last unit, I think we did. There was one unit on ergonomics.
Okay, so could you elaborate a bit more about human ergonomics and what exactly happened in that topic?
So basically, in that topic, you had to find out what are the factors that contribute to human ergonomics and like what factors are involved in comfort and working principles and stuff like that. Yeah, basically that was it.
Okay, so also me being a DT student myself, I remember that we had a unit on innovation and invention.
Right,
So
right, right. Sorry,
obviously,
I forgot.
so tell us more about that unit and tell me more about how were you able to obviously like gain knowledge and what was the main concept that you guys covered in that unit?
In innovation and invention, we basically looked at the life cycle of a product and how it goes through the different stages: development, introduction stage, growth stage, maturity, decline. All those stages, we studied all those stages and the different strategies like designers used to, say, for example, obsolescence to make the product life cycle even longer or achieve sales of the product. We also learned about some key inventors and like Thomas Edison and all those people who played an important role in this chapter. And we looked at the role of technology in innovation and inventions. Oh yeah,
Right. Okay. So obviously
and the
now,
different kinds of innovation. Sorry.
okay, given that obviously we had DT and our MYP as well. So how has
Right.
that deep design helped you? Obviously, the concept that you grasped in MYP, how has that helped you to build on in this DP curriculum?
Right. So in MYP, it was a lot of researching on your own, and I think some of the tasks which we had in MYP, especially there was one unit on circuits and electricity or something like
Yeah.
that. So that I think is definitely going to help me in my IAs and stuff like that. And a lot of units were there on coding, and so I
Right.
think those units were also helpful when I'm looking at technology in DT.
Right.
More so, it's the skills that you build from researching an MYP, and so those have helped me to like because of those skills, I can go on to any topic and research about any topic and gain the knowledge and understanding of any topic. So it's not just specific knowledge from MYP; it's the skills that have helped me. That the skills which I've developed in MYP, which has helped me gain that knowledge.
Right. And finally, I would like to ask you about what would you like to recommend people who are considering picking DT as their subject in DP for the next year?
So DT, I would say it's a good subject to do. And it's if you're definitely looking at if you're definitely interested in DT and MYP, then for sure do it.
Okay, okay,
Basically.
great, great. Thank you so much, Veer.
All right, guys. So that's it for today. We hope that the interviews were helpful and you learned something about whatever subjects you've chosen.
Please like, share, and subscribe, guys.
And hit the bell icon.
For further notifications.
Thank you. Bye bye.